I'm Eric from Birmingham, Alabama.
And I'm Jerry from Boston, Massachusetts. And it's another Sunday podcast. Hey, Eric, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am awesome. This is episode number 1, my friend. How are things in the great state of Alabama?
About the same as they've always been.
I'm not sure if that's good or bad. We'll have to get into that at some point, huh?
It's both.
Well, we are here. We want to welcome everybody who is listening on whatever platform you are listening on. If you are listening to us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button so you'll be notified of all of our episodes as we plan on dropping these, like the title says, another Sunday. So we'll get into how we came together and all of that stuff in just a bit. But I thought what we should do is let our audience know who we are and a little bit about us. And so why don't I start and ask you to talk to the audience and tell them a little bit about Eric down there in Birmingham. You're a master's program right now in college, and you're a drummer in a band. Tell us more.
So I'm Eric from Birmingham, and I am the drummer for the Phil Dudley Band. I also teach drum lessons at the Shelby County Arts Council in Columbiana, Alabama. And I spent 8 years in the Alabama Army National Guard. I went to work at a wood shop for a couple years, and then now I'm back in school pursuing my alternative master's in secondary education to get my certification to teach high school history. And that's pretty much it. What about you, Jerry?
First of all, thank you for your service. So I'm here in Boston. Well, I currently do finance for a major company here in the city. That's my current full-time job, working out of my house during this COVID pandemic. But prior to that, held some pretty interesting jobs. I started back when high-tech was kind of low-tech, just becoming high-tech, back in the 80s. So, yeah, I'm a little bit old. And I was involved in technicians-type work where we actually built computers. We actually repaired computers, but it's not the computers that you would know of today. We didn't have laptops back then. In fact, we had no graphics. Everything was, even pre-monitor. When I first started, it was all teletype type machines, and then we got into monitors, which were just basically like a black and white or like a green screen kind of a monitor with no graphics. So I did that for a number of years. And then I started to travel with this company for probably 7 or 8 years. I started traveling around the country. They offered an early retirement package. So in my early 40s, I was able to take an early retirement package and leave the company and go on to another very interesting job where I toured the country with a children's storybook character taking photographs. And I drove throughout the United States and flew throughout the United States for about 10 and a half months a year, which was kind of nice to spend February in Florida and kind of wind my way around. So I really never felt winter for almost 7 years. Great job. Lots of stories that came out of that. We'll get into that in some future episodes. Prior to the pandemic, I was also an Uber and a Lyft driver. So I have some stories we can share with the folks about that. Some pretty interesting stories as well. We'll probably talk about that in a future episode as well. So from there, I am, as I said at the beginning, now doing financial kind of work for a major company here in Boston. And as I say, that's my story, and we're sticking to it. So how did this podcast come together? Eric and I speak every single Sunday, probably for the last year and a half, by telephone. And part of the job that I had traveling around the country as a photographer I connected up with another gentleman who worked the event named Phil. Phil is a friend of Eric. They're close friends there in Alabama. And through Phil and a Bruce Springsteen concert that Eric and Phil attended with me, that's how Eric and I met. And from there, we've been talking on the phone pretty much, as I said, for about a year and a half, every single Sunday. And one of us said, why don't we do a podcast? And the other one said, that sounds like a great idea. It should be fun. So we went, looked into it, did whatever we needed to do, buy the equipment, all this kind of stuff, did some online learning, and here we are. How do we come up with the name? Kind of interesting. Seems like every time you and I talk, Eric, it's always like, hey, what's happening? And one of us would always say, it's another Sunday. Hence how the name of the podcast was born. So that's how we came together, and that's kind of why we're here, ready to entertain and inform our listeners, I guess. So what we're going to do now, folks, is every Sunday drop an episode. We do have some guests that will be joining us with some interesting stories themselves and some entertainment as well. We will provide some information on the dates that the guests will be joining us. And you can check us out on whatever platform you happen to be listening to us right now. If you are listening to us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button and subscribe to this podcast so that you get notified whenever we do drop one. But it should be every Sunday. That's our hope. That's our goal, is to bring you an episode every Sunday. I think I covered everything. What do you think?
I think so. I think that does it. We'd like to thank all of our listeners, and we hope that you will follow us and continue to tune in to It's Another Sunday podcast. We will be dropping episodes soon, so stay tuned.
Alrighty, it looks like we're getting played out. It's Another Sunday podcast is produced by Eric and Jerry. Technical advisor Tom Bilodeau. Music composed and performed by Tom Blaze. Check out Tom Blaze's YouTube channel at Tom Blaze. Until next time, it's Another Sunday podcast. Thanks for listening.